I want to talk today about something that, for me, sits at the intersection of two very personal obsessions: staying healthy when you've got health anxiety, and protecting the one thing I can't get back, the social world my mother didn't have before she got sick. My mom didn't have anyone besides me for most of her adult life, and she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 68. That experience changed how I think about loneliness. I started reading obsessively, trying to find anything I could do to stack the odds in my favor. What I found is both urgent and actionable. Loneliness isn't just an unpleasant feeling. It's a measurable biological risk to your physical and brain health, and it's one of the few modifiable factors we can actually act on. First, what do I mean when I say loneliness? Loneliness is the painful subjective feeling of being socially isolated, not the same as being physically alone. You can be surrounded by people and feel lonely, or you can live alone and feel connected. The reason this matters is because it's the subjective experience, the stress, the vigilance, and the withdrawal that drives biological changes, not just the number of people in a room. So how is loneliness bad for health? It's associated with higher risk of premature death, on the order of many well-known risk factors people obsess about. It also ties to heart disease, higher blood pressure, poorer immune function, higher levels of inflammation, worse sleep, more depression and anxiety, and frailer physical functioning as we age. For someone like me with health anxiety, that list reads like a horror movie checklist. But it's not doom. It's a set of clear warning signs and, crucially, clear places to intervene. Mechanistically, loneliness acts like a chronic stressor. Chronic stress keeps your body in a heightened state of alert. The stress hormone system, the HPA axis, and sympathetic nervous system are more active, which over time raises blood pressure, increases heart rate, and changes how your immune system behaves. Instead of responding efficiently to threats, the immune system becomes dysregulated, more inflammatory signaling, less effective viral defense, which is exactly the kind of environment that contributes to chronic diseases. There's also evidence that lonely people tend to sleep worse, get less exercise, and are more likely to smoke or drink excessively, behaviors that further amplify health risk. Now let's talk about the part that terrifies me the most: the connection between loneliness and brain health, specifically Alzheimer's and other dementias. Every time I read the research, I picture my mother sitting alone and I feel a physical ache. Studies indicate that people who are lonely, or who have smaller social networks and less social engagement, have a higher risk of cognitive decline and of developing dementia. The connection isn't magical. It's probably a combination of things: the chronic stress and inflammation I just mentioned, fewer opportunities for cognitive stimulation and emotional support, which help build cognitive reserve, poorer sleep, and the harmful health behaviors that are more common in isolated people. Cognitive reserve is a powerful concept for people like me. Think of it as the brain's backup batteries. Education, mentally stimulating activities, social engagement, and learning new skills all build resilience so that the brain copes longer with the pathological changes associated with Alzheimer's before symptoms emerge. When you're isolated and not mentally challenged or socially engaged, you're not adding to this reserve. Add chronic inflammation and poor cardiovascular health, and the brain is getting hit from multiple angles. Another painful reality is that loneliness is often under-recognized in clinical practice. It's not a blood pressure reading or a lab value. It's a subjective state that people are ashamed to report. For caregivers like me, the system tends to treat loneliness as a social problem, not a medical one, but the evidence suggests it should be treated as both. If we're serious about preventing disease, mental and social health have to be part of the plan. What do I do about it? Here's what I tell myself, and what I want to offer to anyone listening who wakes up at 3 a.m. worrying about what could go wrong. First, treat social connection as medicine. Make it a daily habit. That can be 2 minutes or 2 hours, but put it on the calendar. Call one friend, say hi to a neighbor, have one meaningful conversation a day. Small, consistent doses of connection add up. Second, build varied forms of connection. Not all social contact is equal. Deep one-on-one conversations, meaningful volunteering, group activities where people share a purpose, and cognitive clubs, book club, language class, hobby groups, each feed different parts of the brain and emotional system. Mixing them helps increase cognitive stimulation, purpose, and emotional intimacy, all protective. Third, think local and structured. If you're like me, anxious, exhausted, not great at initiating, structured social contexts are easier. Volunteer at a local charity. Join a class with a set schedule, sign up for a community sports league, or find a meetup for a hobby you actually enjoy. When socializing is tied to an activity, the pressure to be interesting drops and you get the benefit of regular interaction. Fourth, use technology strategically. I get that tech can sometimes amplify loneliness, but it's also an enormous tool when used right. Regular video calls with family, small group chats that revolve around shared interests, or local neighborhood apps that let you exchange favors and face-to-face meetups. These things can knit a safety net. But be intentional. Aim for synchronous, real-time interactions when possible, because passive scrolling doesn't build connection. Fifth, invest in mental health. If you have health anxiety, like me, it can be a huge barrier to connection. Cognitive behavioral therapy and interventions designed to reduce anxiety and catastrophic thinking don't just reduce suffering. They make it more likely you'll take social risks that pay off. The less anxious you are about health, the more you can show up for others, and the more likely they are to show up for you. Sixth, prioritize sleep, exercise, and nutrition. These are the basic building blocks that modulate inflammation and brain health. Even small wins. A 30-minute walk, consistent sleep schedule, decent protein at breakfast, reduce the physiological burden of loneliness. It's easier to connect socially when your body isn't constantly protesting. Seventh, cultivate purpose. Purposeful activity, paid work, volunteering, mentoring, caregiving, creative projects, provides a social role and meaning. Purpose often brings routine social contact and that sense of being needed, which is a surprisingly powerful antidote to loneliness. Eighth, check in on the people who might be invisible. My mother had few social ties before Alzheimer's, and I wish I'd known how much a neighbor bringing a meal, a community class, or a regular phone call could have mattered. Keep an eye out for older people in your life and in your community. Reaching out to others is a two-way benefit. It helps them and reduces your sense of isolation too. Ninth, talk to your doctor about social isolation. Ask them to treat your social life as part of your health plan. If they seem surprised, share that there's growing consensus that social connection is a determinant of health. Doctors can and should help connect patients to social resources, mental health professionals, and community programs. Finally, be gentle with yourself. Loneliness can make you withdraw, which perpetuates the problem. Take the smallest possible step towards someone else. Send one message, open one door, show up once even if anxiety spikes. Habits reform slowly but persistently. Over months and years, small social investments accumulate into real resilience. I don't say any of this lightly. My mom's Alzheimer's taught me that some things are heartbreaking and irreversible, but it also taught me that certain risks are modifiable. Loneliness isn't destiny. It's a factor you can change with patience, effort, and a willingness to ask for and accept help. For those of us with health anxiety, that willingness is both an act of courage and strategy. Reducing loneliness reduces the very biological processes that can increase illness risk. So if you're like me, worrying about every twinge, thinking in worst-case scenarios, fearing you'll end up the way your loved one did, start here. Make one social plan for this week. Call one person you haven't called in a while. Sign up for one class, volunteer once, or schedule a video chat. Don't wait until you feel like doing it. Make connection a routine. I wish someone had made that easier for my mom. I'm doing what I can now for myself. If you're listening, please do the same. Loneliness is a real health risk, but it's also one of the most human problems we can solve together.